Hey everybody, happy Monday and welcome into another episode of Wiltfong Whiparound. The week has finally arrived. We are 2 days away from National Signing Day. Grace Remington here with our Director of Recruiting, Steve Wiltfong. Steve, let's talk with one of the biggest names on the board. That's five-star offensive tackle Kadyn Proctor, who's been committed to his home state, Iowa, since June, but Colorado recently offered him, and now he's coming off a visit of Alabama. So what's the deal with his recruitment right now?
Yeah, good morning, Grace. As we record here at 11 in the morning on December 19th here, I like where Alabama stands for Kadyn Proctor, coming off a visit to Tuscaloosa, a return trip for him and his mother and stepfather. I think one thing that we know, Grace, is that we do not expect him to sign with Iowa. Longtime commit to the Hawkeyes. Iowa is fading in this recruitment. Alabama has the momentum. I think Alabama's track record at the point of attack, his relationship with the staff, the connection he's made with Nick Saban and company, getting back down to campus. I think that his relationships that he has with players on the team and commits in the class, those are things that make him comfortable with the potential future at the University of Alabama as well. And now Oregon is in the picture as well. Took an official to Oregon this fall after an unofficial in the summer. He's built a great relationship with Adrian Clem and the Duck staff. So Oregon trying to stay alive. Coach Deion Sanders in Colorado trying to make a late push with a lot of prospects, Kadyn Proctor included. But 2 days before the early signing period hits, we like where Alabama stands for Kadyn Proctor coming out of another visit to Tuscaloosa.
Wow. Well, anything can happen during the Flip Miss season. So let's do a whip around now. Tell us who else is on Flip Watch.
Yeah, so we've had a couple articles on the 24/7 Sports Network, one with 100 hours to go on Saturday and one this morning with less than 50 hours to go. David DJ Hicks returned to Texas A&M over the weekend, the number one defensive lineman in the country. Also considering Oregon and Oklahoma down the stretch, I like him to stick with the Aggies based on everything I'm hearing right now. But Oregon, certainly a school that has piqued his interest late, so we'll see if those feelings come back around one more time before he decides. Dante Moore, five-star quarterback from Detroit King. Everything I'm hearing still favors UCLA at this point to ultimately flip Moore from Oregon. Peyton Bowen, I like Oklahoma to flip him from Notre Dame still. Tony Mitchell, longtime Alabama defensive back commit, took a visit to Texas A&M this weekend, Auburn last weekend. Nothing would still surprise me with Tony Mitchell. I think the smoke continues to pick up for Texas, that they're going to ultimately flip top 247 receiver DeAndre Moore from Louisville. John Walker, no longer on Flip Watch, Grace. The longtime UCF commit says he will be sticking with UCF over Florida, tweeted that last night. Dalen Austin is a defensive back currently committed to LSU. I think he's still ultimately going to end up with Oregon, but he's not going to make a decision in the early signing period, so time will tell. New crystal ball alert, Caleb Presley, currently committed to Oregon. I think he's going to end up with Washington, the number one recruit in the state of Washington. I think he'll end up in the Huskies class. Shifting gears to this Flip Watch 2.0 article today, top 247 defensive lineman Keldrick Falk, longtime commit to Florida State, visited the Seminoles this weekend, but also snuck in a visit to Auburn on Sunday. With that, I think anything can happen as Auburn's got a lot of momentum around their program right now. Bo Hughley's a top 247 offensive lineman from the state of Georgia, longtime commit to the Bulldogs, been committed since September of 2021. Throughout the season, he took visits to Auburn, LSU, and Nebraska. At one point, there was a lot of Auburn smoke. He was at Colorado this weekend, Grace. I still think he ultimately sticks with Georgia. Austin Novosad's a top 247 quarterback that has been committed to Baylor since December of 2021, but in the summer, considered Ohio State and Notre Dame. Here at the end, keeping communications with TCU and Oregon, among others. So we'll see if anything shakes out with Austin Novosad. Javen Thomas is a top 247 defensive back from Texas that's been in the fold for A&M since April, but TCU is certainly one to watch close here at the end. Micah Tease is a top 247 receiver committed to Arkansas that is Colorado, Oklahoma, and A&M lurking. Conrad Hussey, a defensive back from South Florida, committed to Penn State since April, but Florida State and Miami getting late visits, and there's people with knowledge of that recruitment that ultimately think he'll stay in state. Bakari Swain's a top 247 athlete that's committed to South Carolina that also visited Colorado this weekend, and the Buffaloes are making an impression on him. I logged the crystal ball for Oregon to flip 4-star running back Jaden Lamar from Notre Dame. He was back in Eugene this weekend. Texas Tech looks like they're on the verge of flipping 4-star defensive lineman Dylan Spencer from Texas. The Red Raiders have a top 25 class looking to add to that. And then Andy Jean Grace is a 4-star receiver from Florida. He's committed to the Gators, took a visit to Florida State this weekend. I've had a couple people tell me that they think he's going to end up in the Seminoles class. I think Florida's got something to be worried about with Andy Jean.
Wow. All right. Well, I heard you mention Colorado a few times. So let's talk about Deion Sanders, because we know he's not shy when it comes to trying to flip the commits of other Power 5 programs. And the new Colorado head coach just hosted his first recruiting weekend out in Boulder. He promised the biggest recruiting weekend in the history of Colorado football. I saw some pretty sweet luxury cars out there. So what are you hearing out of Boulder, Steve?
Well, I think the big news right off the bat is I logged a couple 24/7 Sports crystal balls in front of Colorado coming out of this massive weekend. Malachi Coleman's a top 247 athlete from Lincoln, Nebraska, one-time Nebraska commit. That's got 10.4 speed in a 100-meter dash at 6'4". He's got a chance to be one of the biggest mismatches in college football down the road. And I like the way it's trending for Colorado. Tim Brewster and Sean Lewis, guys that can utilize that in Colorado's offense moving forward. He had a great visit. Loved the new look staff. Called the coaching staff amazing. Really good down-to-earth people. He said they're both going. He said Lewis and Brewster, they're both going to take care of me. Or he was talking about Coach Sanders as well. I know that. They know that. My parents know that. He doesn't have a decision date locked in, but I think, him saying they showed me how they're going to use me in their new explosive offense and how they want to develop me on and off the field really struck a chord with him. And I think that ultimately he will end up in Colorado's class the way it's trending. Quarterback Kason Wiseman out of the state of Georgia. He had a great visit. He had a great visit to Colorado as well. Forecasted him to ultimately flip from Kansas to Colorado following his trip. He said that he talked about Grace, Colorado, giving him the platform and opportunity to play on what he says is going to be the biggest stage in college football. And he called that opportunity very special. Sean Lewis, the new offensive coordinator, he really enjoyed his time with him and loves the trajectory of the offense under Coach Lewis, who had one of the best offenses in the country as the head coach at Kent State. So that's probably some of the biggest news that came out of the weekend. But as we said, they hosted Bo Hughley, a top 100 offensive lineman. They're trying to flip Vicari Swain from South Carolina. I think there's some traction there. And a lot of the young kids that were on campus too were raving about the experience.
All right. Well, as we record this, we're less than 2 days away from National Signing Day, but there's still quite a few highly rated players in the country who haven't announced their commitment yet. Some of these might come down to the wire. So what can you tell us about some of these uncommitted blue chippers and where they might be headed? Yeah,
when I look at the 24/7 Sports composite player rankings, we'll start at the top of the highest ranked uncommitted player in the country right now is Damon Wilson out of Venice, Florida. Helped his team achieve the state championship game this weekend. Now he can put his full attention on his final decision here. Crystal ball is on Ohio State, but I'm actually favoring Georgia here down the stretch. I think he's going to have some big conversations with these college coaches tonight where we'll get even more clarity on where Wilson stands, but everything seems to be trending towards Georgia late in his recruitment. Nicholas Harbor talked to his dad today. His dad said that his son's still planning to announce his commitment in February. Maryland and Michigan are programs that I think are in terrific position. South Carolina rounding out what I think is the top three. Deuce Robinson, same deal. Not expected to commit till February, Grace, but Georgia, Texas, and USC are kind of the order I like the schools for Deuce Robinson right now. James Smith and Quay Russaw, 24/7 Sports composite 5 stars from Alabama. I'm still riding with the Crimson Tide in that one. James Smith did make it back to Auburn for a few hours on Saturday, but I think that Alabama is the one to beat as I talk to you now. Desmond Ricks is a 5-star cornerback from IMG Academy from out of the state of Virginia that took his last official visit to LSU. He's going to announce on Thursday. I'm still like where LSU's positioned. I know Alabama gave him a lot to think about on his visit the weekend before, and Florida's the third school in the mix. But the intel that I'm gathering still favors LSU for Ricks. That does not mean I'm sleeping on the other schools. Greg Biggins had the report over the weekend that USC is trending up with Mateo Uiagalelei. I know Ohio State's been a mainstay at the top of his list. Oregon still very much in the mix for him as they come down the stretch. So that's kind of the 5-star report. One crystal ball that I'm feeling great about right now, Grace, is top 247 defensive lineman Jordan Hall out of Jacksonville, Florida, Westfield High. Absolutely love Georgia's position for him. We talked about Malachi Coleman in the Colorado segment, like Colorado. So that's a couple more undecided top 100 players that are going to do something here in the early signing period. Could be fun to watch Georgia here at the end, as I also think that they're going to flip Kyron Jones from NC State. Still like them for Daniel Harris, 4-star, and maybe they get Damon Wilson. So Alabama positioned well to stay number 1. Georgia positioned well to stay number 2 as the early signing period gets here.
All right, let's go down to the Sunshine State now. These recruiting battles between the Gators and Miami have been fun to watch, but the Canes win one last night, Sunday night, landing a commitment from 4-star running back Mark Fletcher. He had decommitted from Ohio State in early November. So, Steve, what went into his decision here, and what's the U getting in him?
Well, Miami's really flexing on rival Florida on the recruiting trail right now, winning out for Cormani McClain, holding off the Gators for Samson Okunlola, and then maybe flipping the script here late on Florida for Mark Fletcher, a 6'1", 225-pound running back that, look, Mario Cristobal knows what he wants Miami to look like. He knows what it's supposed to like. He won 2 national titles there as a player. He helped Alabama win a championship in 2015. He had Oregon there on the cusp of a college football playoff, won a couple Pac-12 titles out there in Eugene. He knows what a championship roster is supposed to look like. He's building one. If you look at these last 2 recruiting classes at Miami, Mark Fletcher, the latest to join the fold, one of the more heavily recruited running backs in the country, ran for over 1,900 yards and 23 touchdowns as a senior, Grace. Led his team to the state championship game. He's a winner. He's a guy he's a lunch pail football player. He gives Miami what's going to be 2 220-pound ferocious runners as they beat Florida last year at the buzzer for Trevante Citizen. Now they're going to be able to run Mark Fletcher alongside him with 4-star Christopher Johnson, who's already in the fold as well as that thunder and lightning. He's that speed back from South Florida. But this offense is really coming together for them, Grace. I think Josh Gaddis, last year's Broyles Award winner, who's taken a lot of heat this year. He doesn't have much personnel to work with, Grace. But they're getting them some personnel right now on the trail. This offensive line class is fantastic with Okunlola and Francis Maui-Goa, and I know they love Tommy Kinsler. Those are the guys that are going to be able to create some nice running lanes for Fletcher, Citizen, and Johnson, and then have arguably maybe the top slot receiver in the country committed in Nathaniel Joseph, who they flipped from Clemson earlier in the cycle. Cristobal and company, they love their tight ends. They got some dynamic, versatile pieces with Riley Williams, Jackson Carver, and Reed McKeska. Those guys all have the body types Miami's looking for. They want to be a bigger, tougher, more ferocious football team all the way around. And this recruiting class is full of big-body dudes and tremendous playmakers on the offensive side. They have Robbie Washington committed at wideout. They want to add another receiver, I think. They've certainly done well in the portal here, Grace. So Miami, with the way that they're stockpiling players, Mark Fletcher, the latest, I don't think we're going to see them be 5-7 much longer.
Yeah, that offense is going to be awesome to be following for years to come. All right, Steve, next time I see you, you're going to be in Nashville. You ready for the big day?
Trying to be. You never know. There's going to be a lot of surprises. There's going to be things that we're not ready for that we're going to break down on the 24/7 Sports Recruiting Show. Hopefully we're ready for most of it, but we'll bring you the latest from Fort Lauderdale and Nashville on Wednesday, a 9-hour show that you'll be able to watch right here on this channel.
Yep, it's going to be awesome. And Steve's going to be breaking news all day long. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single thing. We will be broadcasting live starting 9 a.m. Wednesday all the way until 6 p.m., covering all the commitments, all the classes of Signing Day 2022. So we'll see you guys there. Thanks, Steve, and thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you soon.